Minutes past 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom. Welcome to your global community conversation. Program is Calm. Let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira, live on 75W Radio, live on Umma Connected, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. Ready to roll. And today we are asking the question to do business with your partner or not to do the business. That's the question. Tonight, we are trying to traverse into a very interesting topic also that relates to our social relationships. That has to do with, husband and wife. And there are many ways that people end up doing business together. There are people who will have come into a relationship. You join a business, or zekolera haji, or zekolera hajati. You start working with the person, and before you know it, one thing leads to another. Ofuso omuntu omwesigwa okozeyo ziyara nga trade ya nabbi sallam gye yakola okugenda Syria okomezaawo amagoba. The person is very happy with your performance. The next thing is akusabye, you end up being husband to the hajjati yeyekolera dda sente ze, oba to the haji eyekolera dda sente ze nga wazze oli mukyala az'okukola. That might be the kind of relationship that starts as a business. In that sense, it may be that you are not equal partners because sente zoli nayo zeno nti oz'okuyamba okuperforminga. While you might take the role of a spouse and therefore get upgraded to a certain level, there might be limitations in terms of how you make decisions in this particular business, given the status of your relationship. So that's one that is there. Just for starters, I hope you're all well. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah for health, for giving us another chance to life, because many people would have wished to be alive today and within the last week lost their lives or went back to their Lord and are unable to be with us. Alhamdulillah, for those of us who are here, it is not our own doing. This is Allah's doing. So tonight in this conversation, I'm trying to look at people who have managed to do business. So regardless of how you came into that business, it may be that you went to university, you graduated, husband, wife, you all graduated, then you entered into a relationship. Maybe from university, you graduate and you start working. And with that, as you're working, one is in the legal system, one is a teacher, then you decide to do business together. You come in here almost as equal partners in this perspective because you're both earning and you're bringing a particular contribution to the business. So that's another kind of relationship. You'll find that probably that relationship will also be different because you come into this as equal partners, as opposed, for example, to the person who joined the business as an employee and then got upgraded through relationship management and managed to find themselves in that perspective. There may be situations where you have a person who has money but then doesn't have the time, or has the ideas but doesn't have the money. The person brings the money, and through the partnership, you see what sort of contributions people are bringing. It may be that I'm bringing the money, you are running the business. You have the skills to run the business. I have the money, but I don't have the skills to run a business. You come and run it. It may be that we decide it is a shop, it's a wholesale shop, it's a retail shop. Both of us go and sit in there. It may be in that sense. It may be a farming enterprise where husband and wife also go in. So from last week, I received, comments from a number of people who were sort of saying, Sheikh, I think it would be quite interesting for us to have this kind of conversation. Increasingly, there have been cases of, spouses who are going their separate ways, not divorcing in the relationship, but divorcing in the business sense, deciding each one to do their own stuff. And there are very good reasons on both parties. There is the party on the men. Abaga nti abakyala agenda okujja mu business ng'azze ajja kuleeta 20% naye ng'azze kukima 80% akumalewo akuguse bugusa business yo n'agisigaze. Najjira mu lukujjukujju naye ng'ekimuleese ultimately is that. Fanaudhu billahi min dhalik. There is that. Abakyala ne bagana nabo abaami nabo tebakoleka nabo. Mutandikidde ku aliifu ne mucontributing a sente oluweramu bwe ziti ayagala agenda aziwesemba omukyalo owokubiri nga nze natuuyanye. There are all these differing aspects, and I think it will be interesting because, as I say, this is one place where we have a global community conversation and you are the experts. Kwanga, it's your experiences that we build upon. Maybe it's something you had, it might not be necessarily you. It may be something or someone you know that went through that particular situation. So tonight we'll try to explore why is it, or is it, it may be that actually we've just seen 3 cases and then suddenly we see many people are sort of going down that route. It may be that actually there are many successful couples who are continuing to do business together. Just like it may be that many are falling apart from a business perspective, not divorce really. But now in a business, how do you manage to avoid carrying the baggage, the marriage baggage, into the business, into turning it into a business baggage? If you've had a misunderstanding at home, how do you manage to make sure that this misunderstanding that started from home does not cross to affect business, especially in a situation where, for example, you have employees who are there? So now Nogojari, I always like your caveat. Oyangu wamangu nnyo kugiteekawo ng'olinga agaate tujja gy'oli. Tujja kwekakaba olwaleero tujje tukuwulizeeko at least for a second. So emirundi egisinga people start with good intentions batandika mu mukwano, and the idea is, we are going to do this business. Once you've identified, you start doing business, well, things happen along the way. Is there trust issues? What happens along the way? I would like to hear these kind of experiences, because some of you have, been through these situations, and it would be interesting to hear. It may be that actually there is a couple that wants to start business. They don't know what sort of challenges and sort of things they must make sure they take care of. It is important that we sort of get to hear this. Bwana Isma, if you're ready, I think our clip number 1 will sort of introduce us into this, and then we open up the conversation, especially that we don't want to miss Hajat Sarah, who might be getting into office anytime, and would like to hear her own take on this. But let's first look at business. This is a successful couple that has managed to work together. How did they do it? It is important, I think, for us to hear that. Isma.
Right? I mean, you're not just working together, but starting a fast-growing business together, which is about one of the most intense things you can do, and you're married, and you have a baby, right?
Yeah.
So that's intense. How does that work?
It really is great. Like we've learned over the years how to work well with each other, and through a lot of counseling as well, and through a lot of advice of others. But the good thing is we complement each other really, really well.
Yep.
And so, I mean, thank goodness that his strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa, because this company could not function if we did not have that awesome partnership. And we do see things from a completely different perspective, which I think is unique because we can challenge each other's ideas. And generally, we kind of fall in the middle somewhere. And so it's been a lot of fun. I mean, he went really CG full-time about 1.5 years ago. And I think it's been one of the best things for the company. And it's really helped us to get to the next level. And with his skill set, we need that to get even further along as we keep growing. So.
And just a couple comments on it. So if you are thinking about working with your spouse, I think there's 3 phases. The first is you're thinking it's going way better than it's really going. It's like the honeymoon phase. And then it's like becomes impossibly hard. And that's when most people just call it quits. But if you can press on and work on communication, role clarity, and trust, I think those are some of the big factors. Then you can get to the 3rd phase, which is, this is amazing. Like, I'm spending a lot of my time on earth at work and away from my family. But when you work with your spouse, we're getting to spend so much of our time together, and the business has really become our family.
Yeah.
So I think that being persistent in that is super important, and then role clarity.
Yeah.
If everybody's doing everything, no one's in charge of anything. And so we organize our world with 3 circles. There's the things that Allie autonomously does, the things that Jeff autonomously does, and then an intersecting circle that neither one of us can make the call until we run it by the other. And that was advice from one of our mentors. If you don't have role clarity, you're going to constantly feel like you either have no power or all the power, and then that's going to make your business partner pretty upset.
Fantastic, and I'm sure it is straight, short, sweet, and straight to the point. And I think that lays out the fundamental area that I'd like us to use to go in. I think just to recap, just in case you missed that, the idea is you have to have role clarity as you go into this, who should do what. Once you have that clarity, it helps then to enhance the business, that you know who is doing what. Otherwise, you might end up doing too much where the other person doesn't do much, while it might actually become overwhelming on you, it might also be underwhelming on the other person because they don't feel appreciated or, much involved. Or it may be actually that someone feels much more powerful than the other person, and that now starts affecting the partnership. Very crucial that you actually look at the roles. This particular family, Jill and Ali, the way Jeff and Ali, the way they decided to go about it is that you have particular roles that Jeff is going to be doing individually. There are particular roles that are specific to Ali, and then there are roles that they can complement each other, but ultimately sort of bringing in a synergy that meets the business. So while this one pulls this side, this one pulls this side, and they all bring together, and the business manages to run. Bwana Isma, if you're ready, I think those other two clips are very, very short. We can just actually get them out of the way so that then they can help us open into the conversation while we're still at it. So if you're ready, I think I would be happy if you have those little short snippets, if they're ready. We could just have them. I think they're like 30 seconds each. They might just help to get them out of the way so that they can help us in the conversation. Whenever you're ready, when I see it on the screen, I'll just stop talking. But in the meantime, I think if you've just joined us, we are talking about doing business with your partner, not employing them, because that might be another element of it. It might be that's the approach you've taken, but we're talking about you doing business together. So it's like you've brought something, I've brought something, and we put together to do business. While Isma is getting ready, because I cannot see the clip on the screen yet, why not catch up with Hajat Sarah before she disappears into work? Hajat Sarah, welcome to the conversation. You were one person who managed to do business with your late husband. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. Let's probably hear from you just in terms of the start. How did this business relationship start?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was just one business. My husband owned lots of businesses, and my role was being an accountant. I looked after the books in all businesses. When I got married to him, he was well established with most of his business. They were already up and running. I think the only business that started was the hotel. That's one we started together. But some other business were already running. It was all good, and I would encourage people to work together, because when you both have same interests, like you have a family and you're working together, it's very easy to look after your children, because you all have the best interests of that family, and you're all looking to expand and maybe make things better for both of you. So your interests are all the same, and it's quite easy. I would think that some of the challenges are if there is no trust, as in when men go about having those affairs outside, extramarital affairs, that's when most problems come up. And then you as a woman, you start thinking about making things secure for yourself. You're like, what if we part ways? What am I going to do? And then you start maybe making some hidden investments without them knowing. Yeah, but if everything is going smoothly, and also worrying about a man marrying that, like you already mentioned, as Muslims, we can't stop our husbands from marrying other women. But if they do come into the picture and you have been with your husband for a long time, you've made things together and you've all made plans, and this someone else comes in as a newbie who hasn't worked that hard, then it can be a problem. But for me, I think you thrive better if both of you work together, because of the family unit and all really each and everyone really caring about each other, and we're all out there to look after
Does
your
it
family.
matter though? Does it matter how you enter the business? And that's where I said, your sort of initiation, because you said your husband was already kind of established when you came into the picture. So as you came in, did you find a smooth transition that gave you enough powers to be able to influence or even help with decision making now that you're a wife and not just an accountant? Or also importantly, were you able to sort of draw a clear line between the accountant Hajat Sarah and the wife Hajat Sarah?
Yes, there was boundaries, and there were clear lines that both of us used to get even salaries. We had to make sure that we all had our own salaries and benefits. And with decision making, so of course my husband used to take the upper hand, but he would listen. And sometimes he would even go into risks that I wouldn't want him to go into. But him being the someone who founded stuff, I would always trust him. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'm sure he's taken this kind of risks before, and that's why we are where we are. So that way I would let him, he would do whatever he thought was best for all of us, which in the end, there was a time when I grew older, because I married him when I was a young woman who was in my 20s. And you can imagine what kind of decisions I'd be making at that age, you see. He was a more mature man, so I had to trust him more, because I knew he knew what he was doing for us, and I knew whatever he was doing was the best for us.
Right. Did there come a time where you felt like you could, because part of the problem that has also been mentioned severally, and I think you've touched it on a little bit, is the idea of, women now beginning to sneak behind the man's back and beginning to do some stuff that is outside. I mean, you've had a very big case that, really, really made some of the social media go viral, of a woman and man. They were both doctors. No, the wife was a pharmacist and the husband was a doctor. Doctor starts working really hard, gets a job internationally, leaves Uganda. They were still renting, so goes abroad and starts sending the huge monies, because I think he had got a job with the World Health Organization or something like that, or a big pharmaceutical company, if I remember well. Man continued sending money. The woman started building a house, even bought the house that they were living, actually built the house that they were living in, but then considered it as if it was rented. The man was hardly coming. The building was done so fast because there was a lot of money flying, from the man. Woman continued collecting rent from the man in a house that they are actually supposed to be owning, and it only gets worse later on once the man comes back, and then everything falls apart, and reality comes to set in. What sort of insecurity? What is it that pushes a spouse? Because I cannot say it's only women. But especially, I mean, for men, most of the men, we say a woman can connive with her children and throw you out, and we've seen such cases. So as a man, why okay, wait till the kid you carry back, you can last card. So women have also embarked on that. Actually, women more than men. Most men just put everything on the table. But and I'm not saying this is a generalization, but there will be a few exceptions. But most men will sort of put everything on the table, and yet the wife will just go back and just do something kaga and kanakechkas. Why do we have such situations sort of cropping up?
There must be a number of factors that would lead to that kind of situation. Sometimes it's just people being different. Yes, someone aspiring to do different things, and that is also lack of trust. Someone doesn't trust the other, or just someone being who they are. Yeah, like cheats. Some people are just thieves. They won't even need a reason to do whatever they want to do. Yeah, and in cases like when people don't live together, I've seen so many men being used, especially those who are abroad. You may think you have a wife back home, but they won't wait for you for a long time. So they will have someone on the side, and you're the one facilitating everyone there. Their so-called boyfriend or whatever, they have their way of taking them, where they are now they promise them to be their husbands or whatever. I've seen such things happen. There was even a man who married a young woman and put that young woman into business, but that young woman had a sweetheart in uni, and he would come to visit, as a brother, because the man didn't know, or the entire family. So he was working really hard. Even he bought that man a car. He was driving. He was a very famous man in Kampala. So these things happen. People are different in their own ways, and they do things sometimes. Some don't even need a genuine reason to do whatever they are, whatever they do, and others will do whatever they do out of, being heartbroken or having lost trust in someone. Most women do react in that manner. If it was me, it would be if my husband cheated on me or he had an affair, that would make me feel bitter, and maybe I would start thinking about protecting myself, because now if you all having a business or businesses which you run together and you don't have anything for you, you wonder what would happen, because we do not have fair we don't have fair courts in Uganda, whereby if the divorce has to happen, you get a certain chunk of money to start your own life. So at most, it's women who lose. It ends up that doesn't matter whether things are written in your names, the man might be the one who will take over, because he'll be like, yes, I gave you shares, but you won't even have a chance to go to the court to get your shares as written down in the memorandum of association. So it can be really difficult. I think it's really hard to trust men. They do lots of things. Yes,
I'm sure the men
we are
are
very
listening and they
easily.
will come to their own,
Yeah,
they'll come to their
yeah.
own defense.
If you
Why
find
is it
a woman like that doctor is rare, is really unheard of in society. Yeah, that doctor you were talking about, that lady who
yes.
conned the man,
No, it's
is
a
rare.
story that went
Yeah,
viral. It was a painful,
yeah,
painful story, you know, when the man.
yeah, but it's rare. Only what has caused trouble mostly now is the distance. Distance marriages do not work. They are quite a challenge. There are lots of challenges that face them. And I wouldn't advise anyone into going into that. But we have to trust each other. And sometimes doesn't matter. Yes, they might marry, they might even cheat. But at the end of the day, men, when they work with their women, they really have the heart for their families. And they would want to look after their families and they want them to prosper.
Now, if you had some advice for a couple that is just married that intends to go into business, what sort of advice, given, you know, like what you've seen, what you've gone through, what you've had, what sort of advice would you give to a person embarking on, you know, starting a business with spouse, with their husband or their wives?
I think they have to trust each other, yeah, and all have the same goals as to why they're doing business together, and be ready to share all the losses and profits. Yeah, and also sit down how they are going to work, who is going to do what, and how are we going to divide our profits? Because for me, I used to get my salary, but my husband was that kind of control person who would want to see me spend every penny. He would worry that, oh, maybe you invest outside. He wouldn't mind you spending money on whatever you want, but he would want to see that all the money is gone. And he still has the upper hand, you see, as in he still has the biggest finances to control. Yeah.
Yeah.
But people work different, like I said. I don't want to be the topic of the day, but that's what I didn't see. It's not a problem. It's really good for young families. That's the only way you can, look after your families together, because you all have the same interests, you see. Yeah, and if you will have as much maternity leave as you want, because he's covering you. He knows this is what you're doing. You're having a baby, or you're looking after the baby, so you have to go do school runs. You won't be having trouble in any way, because both of you are working together and you know why you're doing whatever you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yes. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shikiki.
For the insight. And the men out there, abasajja nkakasa muwuliriza bagaye, men cannot be trusted according to Hajat Sarah. Time to kwerwanako. Sauda, you say lack of trust. Probably there is something here. Sauda, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you today?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Yes. Have you done business with hubby?
No, I haven't, but actually we're thinking of doing a business together. And I do trust my husband 100%, and I think we can do really, really well. But the only problem, I would want to do it here and he would want to do it back home. So
So location is proving difficult then.
exactly.
So have you been able to agree on that then?
No, not yet. I'm not ready to go back home. And then he wants to go back home. So yeah, we put that on hold. But
does
hearing
that
that story,
not create a threat? If especially from a business perspective, you trust him, like you say, 100%, but then his business ideas seem to be sitting back home, and your business ideas seem to be sitting here. In your supporting role, you might allow him or agree that he goes and starts the business because that's what he wants. in the hope that probably you might also be able to start something that you do agree upon this end. But by going the other end, then the fear that Hajat Sarah was talking about comes in. You're working, there is a lot of stress. In fact, people end up in relationships at work, and that's the one thing actually I think probably we should find just a day and discuss that topic. Jobs like journalism, and I'm sure other jobs, because I've not done other jobs to start making serious comparisons. The only other job I've done is an Uber driver, and that is inside your own car. Therefore, there wouldn't be so much. But you realize that jobs like journalism are very stressful. There are lots of pressures put on you in terms of deadlines, in terms of delivery stuff, in terms of travel time. You end up in conflict zones and all of that. The people you are hanging around are the people that are closest. If someone starts crying, the shoulder to cry on might not be your husband or your wife. It is someone, it's your producer in the field, it's your editor. It's this person that is, having access to you. And then the next thing is, before you know it, you cannot cry on that shoulder 3 times before developing feelings. So as a result, you find that many journalists, actually, for a journalist to hold down, like a home, a relationship, just like soldiers who go away a lot and fight in battles, leaving their wives in houses with some money that is, at their access, it creates a kind of a pressure. So I'm bringing this just to sort of paint a picture for you, that don't you think you trust your husband, you would want him to do business, but he wants it in Uganda, you want it here. That might mean you having to allow him to go. And if you let go, the consequences might be there.
Yeah, I can't allow him to go. That's the thing. Because however much I trust him, I know he's honest, he's kind, he's everything. There's so many temptations back home. And like you said, we're gonna have workers who work for him. So before you know it, he may start a relationship without even knowing that he's starting one. You know what I mean? We could have communication every now and again, but like you said, it's not the same. It's not like being there physically. I can be, a call away, but I won't be there. So now I'd rather we stay here and do whatever.
So how do you hope to progress on that business? Because it's clear he wants Uganda. It's clear you want here. It looks like there's more business that is going to take off then.
I think with time, if he gives me a few years, I'm thinking about it, and maybe we can relocate and go back home. But that has to be as a family, not just him. Yeah,
no, but
because I've got.
If you're going to wait for that long, Sauda, if you're going to wait for that long, circumstances are changing on the ground. Your energy is also going. I mean, what I was 5 years ago is not what I am today. The energy levels, regardless of all my wish and all the will in the world, I cannot perform how I performed 5 years ago. You start probably losing momentum, and then even the interest and something else will come in the way and stop the business from kicking off.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. But we are thinking, I'm thinking of maybe we start a business that doesn't require us to be there, physically there. Maybe for example, if we buy like a huge land and we grow like trees or something like that, like a business that doesn't require us to be physically there, we can start with that. And I think about relocating, but letting him go, I feel like I'll be sacrificing my marriage, if you know what I mean.
No, I see what you mean, but then I see the dilemma now. I wish he was here so that we could hear from his side as well, because it may be that if business has to happen, then time is very crucial. It's one of those things. I mean, and a lot of people who have failed in businesses is waiting too long, because one thing about success in business is about, it's not the loss of fear, but the ability to dip yourself in there, because the only way you can know is once you've started. You can never know. You can even read all the theories you want, but until you're deep down there and face it and see the realities, you can never appreciate, what you are dealing with. But I can hear you. Are there any other concerns? Yes, go ahead.
He has said it. He has said it so many times as well. Like, we don't have that time to wait. But I've got a friend who was married here, and the husband, they worked so hard together, got money. Husband said, you know what, let me go home, let's start up the business, and then you can follow me. That's what happened. Lady stayed here working, man went home, and guess what? He got married to another girl, and they had like the biggest wedding. So I'm not ready for that. You know what I mean? So, and it's not about lack of trust. I trust him 100%. But like I say, there are a lot of temptations back home. So, nah.
That is the home aspect. Now, what about other people who have managed to do business together? Have you had like friends, people who have done business beyond this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got friends here who have done business. I've got a friend I went to uni with, and she's a pharmacist. Her husband is a doctor. They've worked together. They've done a business, and they get on so well, and they are successful. And these people we are talking about,
what their secret is. What their secret is. How do they manage to do it?
And you know what? When they first started, when they were in uni together, she said they used to argue a lot. You know what I mean? Because she thought the man was sneaking behind her back and stuff. But I think it was trust, because she told me sometimes she pinches herself thinking, is he actually the same person, or is he gonna switch? Because they're so well off, they've got loads of money. But she said he's the best man like anyone could ever want. You know what I mean? So the secret is, she said, trust, communication, and understanding each other. So yeah. Fantastic. I think it can work, but I'm just not ready yet to go back home. I've got my reasons.
I hear you loud and clear. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sauda. Barakallahu fikum. And in the chat room, Namkwaya Amina says, communicate honestly, financial transparency, periodically check in on to see that you're on the same page, share workloads, share documents, calendars, both to be in light, agree on communication protocols, respect each other's point of view, compromise when necessary, adjust expectations together. I mean, it feels like this sounds so academic. I'd rather, like get a feel from you. Let's hear from you, probably just explaining some of these things. And wondering as well if you're already doing business. Amina, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello, Wembogo. Hello, Amina, and I'm quiet. Hello, Amina. Okay, looks like Amina probably is up where she is. I would have wanted to hear a little bit, just to explore a little bit. Not safe. Okay, yeah, clear. You are in the clear. Ashraf, I'll come to you, get to hear from you. I think you raised something about a little bit of trust. Ashraf, assalamu alaikum. Hello, Ashraf. Hey, the quiescence here is quite high. We started on a very high. Ashraf, are you there? Let me seek out Haji Kassim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's hear from you, Sebo. Perspective, Yoko business and husband and wife.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Irinya naye obuntu obujjangawo obwo bw'otuleeteranga obutukubanga emitima buli
bajja kutuma obuntu obwo obujjangawo obwo.
Kubanga kyeka oleeta obuntu bwennyini obutukwatirako ddala. But for me on my side, yes, I can do a business with my wife. Era nali njikozeeko. Nga it was successful, netuzimba n'ennyumba, netukola ennyumba z'abapangisa, nga naye kyenakola nga ye controller. So me, yali head of everything.
Controller what finances, w'okuzimba or what?
No, but twalina business nga ya kuwola ssente. Nga tulina microfinance nga ekola bulungi nnyo, naye nga mukyala wange kwegamba nga ye yalinga nga leadinga. Ngamba oyo tumuwe, oyo tetumuwa, oyo ate nga buli wasonga nga watuufu. Kati it comes back to the trust.
Yes.
Bw'obanga mukyala wo omwesiga oba omwami wo omwesiga is one of the best business you can do. Kuba muba mutegeeragana. muba mumanyi ekigenda mu maaso. Sheikh ffe twazimba ennyumba mu mwaka gumu naye nga sente zivudde mu bizinensi gye tukola, naye ng'omukyala yasinga okubeera nti zigwe nakwasa
driving force, yes,
exactly, nga yavuga. Era bwe mba nkola bizinensi, yes, mukakasa omukyala muwe n'akwasa ekintu n'atambuza. Naye kati obuzibu nga bw'ogambye nti fe abasajja ate ku sayidi y'ewaffe kirala nnyo.
Twemalayo.
Kati bwe bamala okukwasa obuvunaanyizibwa akantu ne kawera ate ebiddako tebiba birungi. Ate ekitali ku mukyala, kuba omukyala bw'aba yeewaddeyo okukola, wallahi akolerera famire n'akolerera gwe omwami. Wanzi nali nkirabyeko era ninkirinako gundi obujulizi.
Yes.
So yes, is one of the things I can do, even if tomorrow, even if ne bwe mba nga nvudde mu nsi mmanyi nti mukyala wange asobola okutambuza business. Bwe nali nkikozeko ne nkiraba.
Naye abakyala abamu bafuuse bayaayi nnyo bw'osoma ebintu ebiri mu
ate kaakati Sheikh kyekiri kyenkugambye nti ne mu basajja si buli omu, mulimu abasajja ddala weebali nga bakola ne bakyala baabwe nga n'ebweru talinayo mukazi mulala, kibeera it is a personal kintu kya mutima. Naye nga n'abakyala mwebali Sheikh abali trustworthy nga akola ng'ekintu kyakola kyammwe ng'okirabako bw'oti n'aleeta sente n'aziteekawo n'agamba ezo ze twafunye ku ono yasasudde bw'ati, ono yakoze bw'ati, kubanga nze mukyala wange yajjanga n'aleeta accountability byonna, ono yaleese kyeke, ono yitayo omuggyeko kyeke eno, ono Sheikh ekintu nga kitambulira ddala ne tutambuza ekintu naye kiva ku muntu, mu mutima gwa muntu. Toyinza gamba nti no bonna, no. Yes, abayaaye mwebali ate bayitirivu, naye ate n'abalungi Mungu be yawa emitima nga mwebali nga kiringa ne ku sayidi y'abasajja. Naye nga it is one of the best thing you can do nga ddala mutegeeragana bulungi, kitambula ate kinyuma.
Great. Bw'ayisi Masebo tusaba bu clips bwaffe bubiri obwo bujje butuwe. Kati bw'oba obadde wakuwa magezi Haji Kassim omuntu agenda okukola business ne mukyala we oba ne mwami we, magezi ki ge wandibawadde kubanga abantu tuli banjawulo. We come from
tewali kirala kwesigangana, buli omu kwesiga munne, tewali kirala. Kassa mubeera nti mwesigangana nga mutegeeragana. Oteekwa okubeera naawe ate omusajja olina okuba ng'owuliriza nga bakuchallenginga gwe sikugamba nti nze buli kimu. Omukyala alina okuleeta ebirowoozo. Abakyala abo nno Sheikh balina ebirowoozo ebirungi wallahi. Bw'oba ng'obadde omwesize ng'omuwadde n'akulabamu naye ekintu, balina ebirowoozo ebirungi nno naddala. Ate bo ku ssente Sheikh bakwata mpola akantu, naye ffe bw'oba ofunayo miliyoni 2 oyagala oguleko emmoroka, oyagala olage nti wabugize otandika okuvimbavimba, okitegeera. Naye omukyala oyo ayinza okubeera ne miliyoni 10 ku akawunti wallahi nga tokimanyi naye nga kweziri. So it is about trust and understanding each other. Tewali kirala, mutegeeragane muntu mumanye nti kiki kye twagala, nti twagala myaka 5 tube nga tutaddewo amayumba g'abapangisa naye tutandikiddewa tuteeke wano gundi omulengo gw'emyera. Wallahi musobola okukola nga mulimu okwesigangana. Naye naddala nze kyeŋŋamba abakyala abo tubawe obuyinza, bali so they can understand. Bw'oba omwesize.
Haji Kassim, somebody will say that is an old generation. Those women used to be there. Bakyaliyo, because from what I'm seeing today,
Sheikh gyebali. N'emirembe gy'abamama baffe, Seeka n'emirembe gy'abamama baffe baaliyo abayaaya bazaalanga bapakasi gyebali. Kati naguno omulembe abalungi weebali ssebo, weebali. Olina kubeera olina okumala okustudinga omuntu onoomumanya. Kati ng'ajja ty oyo avuddeko emabega omuwulidde agambye she can trust her husband 100%. Owulidde bw'agambye. Yayina ensonga ye agambye tajja mukkiriza genda Uganda kuba kimanya ekiddirira.
Barakallahu fikum Haji Kassim. Debs Baba Zimunamiti, and I'll be coming to you shortly. Let's first play these very short clips. Probably they might help to inform. And you say your childhood experiences actually affected how you think about this whole topic. Tomorrow Funa clips is Nobili, and then we'll come to Debs and Abdul Karim. I can see your hand is up. Yes, Isma, please go
For
ahead.
11 years. We've been business partners for 13 years. And I always say this, that don't make your spouse your business partner just because they are your spouse. You got to make sure that your spouse and you have complementary skills to contribute to the business. So in our case, she manages the operations and finance, I manage the marketing and sales. So there's a sense of coming together and providing what's required to grow the business. And when we are communicating with each other, we are always clear who is communicating. Is it the husband communicating to the wife, or is the business partner communicating to a fellow business partner? I think that switch is very, very important. That awareness is very, very important. And that's what makes the marriage work and the business partnership work. Bhakti and I have been married for 11 years. We've been business partners for
the next
13
one,
years.
please,
And I
is-
always say this, that don't make your spouse your business partner just because they are your spouse. You got to make sure that your spouse and you have complementary skills to contribute to the business. So in our case, she manages the operations and finance, I manage the marketing and sales. So there's a sense of coming together and providing what's required to grow the business. And when we are communicating with each other, we are always clear who is communicating. Is it the husband communicating to the wife, or is the business partner communicating to
So
a
if
fellow
I can
business
get
partner?
the
I think
next
that
clip,
switch
please.
is very, very
Yeah, the next short clip, please.
Dealing with spouses, there has to be these agreements and this trust factor that the other person is going to do that job that they are hired to do in that role. It's not your spouse in that degree. Now, if you can treat each other like a spouse and like a CEO and like a bricklayer, life is going to be great. You're gonna have a lot of fun because you really get to go to work with like your best friend all the time and you totally trust them, you totally, enjoy doing it. But the problem enters in when people already have relationship baggage that now becomes business baggage. And then you bring employees into a business baggage situation and the employees don't want to stick around because I'm working for an old married couple who can't stop bickering at each other. And then I'm out on the job site laying bricks and George is just complaining about Roseanne the whole time. I don't want to work in that environment. When you're dealing with spouses, there has to be these agreements and this trust factor that the other person is going to do that job that they are hired to do in that
Yes,
role.
I
It's not
think
your
that
spouse
sets
in
it
that.
up, Bwana Isma. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think these two clips, married for 13 years, well, married for 11 years, business partners for 13 years. So they've been partners for longer than they've been married, probably through their experience of, working together and finding common sense or commonality. They decide now to say, we can now take it a step further. And I think that's quite interesting. The second man actually brings in a very interesting perspective. Bickering problems in how you manage to distance that, whatever you went through at home, avoiding that into crossing, into the office work, that it doesn't move. You don't carry the baggage from home and carry it into the business. Fantastic. Ashraf in the chat room says, I am of the view, working together with wife, but I'm still single, so I'm just listening in. Debs, welcome to the conversation. It's been a while since we last had you on the show. How are you, Nyabo?
I'm good. I was in Tiana. I was at Lake Wamala, enjoying my life.
Oh, really? You are making me jealous now.
I was at Lake Wamala.
You refer to your experience as a child, which was traumatizing. What exactly?
It was extremely traumatic because my mom was the rich one. She came from a rich family, rich in inverted commas. And my dad was the poor one. And then they kind of got together. I think they loved each other at that point. But then when the money started flowing and my father then married other women, and he took, because he was the man in Uganda. I'm trying to think, is it in Uganda? Or, in Uganda, actually, yeah. The man takes everything, isn't it? It takes your life, it takes your children, it takes everything. So as my father was getting so rich and and marrying, my mom was losing. And it was extremely traumatic. When I came to England, I can now understand that my mom could have done things very differently. But anyway, It is too late now for her. She's too old. Um, so what I'm explaining is as you work with your husband, because uh, because of my mom and my dad's experience, I have never had a joint account with my husband, because as much as I trust him, I cannot allow him to 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 be in control of my money.
Right.
Yeah.
So you cannot do a business with your husband. Is that what you're saying? Built on that experience.
Yes, actually, this is very funny because I was doing my will the other day when I was in Mitiana. I was my lawyer's in Mitiana, and I was doing my will, and my will is very explicit about who gets what. And my lawyer was like, "You didn't give anything to your husband." I was like, "Yeah, he needs to make his own money."
But the law does provide for that. I mean, a will like that, I think, would be easily contested in court.
He cannot.
Why not? Because if it's a
I've
Ugandan, if it's
made it
Ugandan,
very
even here, I
explicit
think.
that he needs to make his own money.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it that bad? I mean, beyond the childhood, couldn't you do a business with your partner on your terms now that you know what happened there in the past? Couldn't you create your own environment that was different from, what your father and mother's relationship was like?
Well, we've created that, but also I'm also saying, what if I die and um and my children, my husband finds a very young, nubile young lady, and he kicks out my children.
Why do you assume that you would be the one die? He would be the one. Well, you're thinking that you're the one dying. What if it's him dying and you're
That's a very
keeping?
interesting question. He's always said, "Why do you think I'll die before you?"
Yes,
Um,
for some reason, I always find that women, whenever they are talking, the assumption is that it's the men who die first.
yeah, yeah.
Women,
No, no,
women
no.
never look at the situation where they are dying first and leaving a man now to be
Kyo
handling things.
atenga waliwo ne kati naddala kati in Uganda, when you go to Uganda, the accidents, the masasi, we don't know. But I have always wanted to provide for my children, and you know, he can provide for them as well, and I'm sure he is. But I want to make sure that if I die today, my children will be very well provided for.
Provided for. So, what if someone said probably that you are selfish in that sense? Because many people, as couples, go into business because they are looking at the best interests of the family. And I'm sure even when circumstances change later on, someone getting whatever, cheating or whatever, not this. Actually, sometimes it's not really about cheating. It might be the commitment to the business, the kind of sacrifices that you have to make. Sometimes the toll it takes and people decide to work together because you want to be close to each other. If you are stressing out to care home or whatever you are working there, coming back home, if you were doing a joint business, you would be around each other and probably you can improve your relationship much better than being away from each other.
Yes, I agree completely. Well, we do some things together,
Right.
such as we do a bit of farming together. We do a bit of, we do a few things together. But
How has that experience been? How has that experience been?
very difficult because I don't do much farming. I just stand there and I say, do that. That hasn't worked very well.
Debs, thank you very much. I can hear you loud and clear. If you've just joined us, the program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Tonight, we're talking about doing business with your partner. How does it work? Has it worked for you? How did you find it? Was it a difficult kind of, relationship? Did you decide to go your separate ways? Sometimes you start so well and then midway you realize probably you can no longer match. There might be reasons that contributed to this that led you to make a decision to say, haji kora bibyo, haji nange kankole byange. At least at the end of the day tujja kuleta ku table, but at least buli muntu abenga akora bibye. That might be the thing. B. Kaima, I think you are unmuted. Are you trying to tell us something, please? B. Kaima, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, sirina nnyo kye nkyogerako naye nze mmanyi nti ekifuga buli kimu trust na communication.
Yes. Omwami, wali okozeko business n'omwami?
Nedda, sikikolangako.
Yes.
Naye nga mmanyi nti bwe muba nga mukoze, omanye eriyo abantu kisinzira ndowooza kankize emabega nti buli omu gy'ava oluusi gye yakulira. Kati nga bw'owulidde omukyalo oyo akugambye nti talina trust. Sigamba talina trust naye experience gyeyalaba. Ekintu ekyo kikulu nnyo. Ate era ffenna bwe weegendereza embeera gye wakuliramu era gye tutambulirako. Kati ebiseera ebisinga it's trust na communication. Bwe muba nga musobola buli omu okukkiriziganyiza mu munne nga mutuula ne mwogera, ate ebibadde waka ne mutabitwala ku mulimu, nsuubira nti ekyo kisobola okukola. Musobola okukolera awamu era ne mutambuza business.
Kyangu kitya okuba nti ebibadde awaka is not transferred into the business because
nsuubira nti mulina okubeera nga mwakyogerako from the beginning ne mukiteekanga ng'etteeka erifuga. Nti ebizibu tunaabirekanga waka, bwe tunaabanga tuyingira ne tubyambala, nga tufuluma okgenda ku mulimu ne tubireka ku mulyango. Bwentyo nze bwe ndowooza. Kubanga era ne bw'oba nga eno gye batukozesa obukozesa, abantu bangi nnyo bafuna ebizibu awaka, balina ebizibu naye togenda nabyo mu ofiisi era obireka waka ku mulimu tokkiriza. Sirowooza nti kirungi nnyo
naye abasinga babitwala Mukyala Kayima, abasinga babitwala naye era olaba agenda kukyusa muntu, agenda kukyusa mukadde ogekulaba ng'oli kasita amunyizaamu katono, the likelihood nti kijja kubaluka kikwate level endala is almost always there. Anti
kyova olaba nti buli lw'okisitula n'ogenda nakyo weekanga ng'osunye omukadde, weekanga ng'omukubye, weekanga ng'oli ku poliisi.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. Abdul Karim, salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So welcome to the conversation. Nengedene Haji Kassim Narumo so Musa Mawanda Chitunzi UMC North London. We're not wasanyukidenya conversation tonight. Sebo Genda Ma. So we looking at do you agree first of all with the Mukyala Kayima on this? Or you had a different view altogether?
No, you know all clips is ozanye, they are Western based. And abakyala bonna abogedde, I take their views. They could be right in their perspective. Naye we are undermining the reality that we operate within the polygamous setup. Clips ezo nazo yogere, they were not talking about a man having co-wives. Yeah, it's a man having a wife, but you find that majority of our parents, they've been having more than one wife, and they find a way of doing business. That's one point I wanted to drive within your clips.
Yes.
Ekirala nze kyendaba,
it may be that actually these people are coming from a party. The principles they are laying out are absolutely clear. If it's issue like trust, if it's issue like what roles a person should do. So regardless of whether you have more than one wife, because a lot of times when you have more than one wife, unless omukyala ajjanga tasobola business ne bamuteeka mu kyalo oyo agende ku nkumbi ne wabaawo omukyala ali e Kampala, omukyala ali whatever running the shop, and therefore you find that this one awulira nga ye kati yagenza okontrolinga kubanga yali ku source ya sente, oliwo omukyalo ayinza obanga naye aleeta emmwanyi n'amatooke naye we gajjira, perspective nebeera different. We also, at the beginning of the program, laid out some of the ways in which people end up in businesses with their partners. It may be there are people abajjanga ze mukozi mu dduuka, haji yatandika edduuka lyalina bw'akola wholesale ye, aleese omwana okujja okukola mwana muwala ze anyiriridde wali, haji atunudde ku liiso n'agamba ya rabbil alamina nga nafadda, omwana wa mazima mwesigwa, sente bw'azikwata bw'azitwala mu banka bwe zikomawo, accounts, books are balancing. This is a person I can be with. Ending up this person is coming into the business, but coming business. Now, whether they would be equal partners in this perspective, that is something, and vice versa. Waliwo omusajja muvubukaze mukozi mulungi akuba ekikalu kyagolola essaati n'agolola empale ng'esobola okuyuza akakindu we kayita. Najja mu dduuka najja okolera hajjati asuubula China, asuubula Japan, azze akoze omulimu ogw'ekitalo. It becomes very good. The next thing is hajjati amutadde mu buyinza, and this person now becomes a business partner. The kind of relationship that comes from such a background might be different in comparison to a person as you've gone to university, you've gone to college, you meet this person, you get married, you decide to start a business. This person is contributing this much from their salary and this person, and you start a business. The kind of relationship might be different, although the principles might be the same. But because of this background, impact. So going to Mass one Abdul Karim, I just wanted to sort of lay out that just in case you missed the beginning where we had that important element.
Yeah, I can hear you via that. But what I was saying is we are all believing that there is trust. We should have trust if we are to make business. Yes. But the challenge I see across is how trustful are we? Nga tetunakola business, how trustful are you with your partner? Tuyinza okuba tusula mu nyumba, I don't know even your bank details, you know? I don't know how much you earn, and I'm not concerned. But wabeerawo that difference, that gap, creating room for business, eyinza okubeera slippery, and it may come on board, but the external factors like in-laws, they may bring some friction, like nina jajja wange, nina okulabirira bajjajja bange, and when she goes to the in-laws, I mean to the relatives, they are like, naye weekoleddewo ki, omanyi abasajja bazibu. Huh? So you find she's diverted from what you've agreed on. Yes. But well, the bigger picture would be if we are to create business between the two of us, we should set out goals. Is it a business for me and you? Is it a business for the whole entire family? Is it a business for the polygamous family? What's the business for? That's very vital. Ntino bwe muna mukiyingira, you can bring your in-law, I can bring my in-law, they also operate the business. Those terms should be clear to all the parties. Mm-hmm. And nze bwendaba, especially wano because now most of us, we are here in diaspora. Fena tuina ego eya selfishness, I would say. I'm not trying to be general, but tuina ego eya selfishness that buli omu akola naye owulira agamba nguzeeyo plot n'oli aguzeeyo plot. So we put the synergy factor out of it, that if you combine resources, you and your wife, you can move much faster and ahead. But everyone is like, oh, I'll put this for my kids. I've had a lady these things are for my kids. The father can also contribute. That's good. But think in a bigger picture. As a sente singa muzikoze collectively, you could be making a bigger investment than what you're thinking of. Like, this is for your kids. And that's why
given childhood experience.
Yeah, Chiriche nakugambye Sheikh Kayira that we all here, we should have this in our mind, reality that with money, it will drive some factors. I know women come to the losing end. Naye omusajja n'obwana abaali trustworthy atya. Naye the more money he gets, the more attractive he is outside. So to me, I would think, omukazi bw'oba ajjamu eyo perspective of doing business, ayeewemu gap that I may get a co-wife if we are to run the business. I know it's very harsh, but sometimes it's the reality.
Would that not affect their commitment to the business then? Why would you kill yourself working so hard to make sure you are keeping all the books well, only to have somebody else come to enjoy the fruits of your struggle? I'm now actually doing the pocket.
No, that's the selfishness thinking we have, that if someone comes in, then I'm a slave because it's me who has been running the business. But there could be healthy factors why you are having a co-wife, and we ignore that. But you embrace it like it's an advantage to the family.
Now, Abdul Karim, I hear you, but now here comes another issue that I would also like you to explore a little bit as we widen out the conversation. And if you've just joined us, it is just 19 minutes now past 9 o'clock in the United Kingdom. We are live on 75 Derby Radio, live on Ummah Connected. The program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Zoom. Issue might be about interests, that while you want to do a business together, there might be an issue of interests. I'll give you an example. I have been dying, like to go into farming, to go into commercial farming. My wife is a business person, but farming wasn't really a thing for her. But I was patient. I knew I was pushing this. I would just talk, sweet talk, create an environment. Went to Africa specifically, quit the BBC. I left the BBC, I could no longer concentrate in work. Passion was just burning inside me. This is like many people's dream job. You get there and that's like the climax, although it's changing now from what it's become now. But that would be like the highlight of someone's career, even for me. But I got there after 17 years of working there. I just felt, you know what? I have a life to live and there is passion. I want to be around the cows. Nina aya jensoma mo Quran, every time I recite that verse, and for me, that started creating the kind of life that I wanted. Allah says in the Quran about that verse of the beauty of looking at your animals as they go to graze in the morning and then watching them as they return back in the evening. For me, that was picturesque, painting a mutwe, and it is something that I would fight to make sure I get to. I started farming in 2015, going 2016, on a small scale, and then started slowly sort of expanding. I can't say I'm where I want to be, but I can see it's work in progress. I have not lost my faith, and the direction has been persistent. Nearly 5-6 years down the road, my wife sees the interest, gender, or passion. Our lives start changing. Now my wife takes charge. Nagamba, I want to take on the poultry business. And for me, in my heart, if I've ever had a happiness of sorts, this was one night that I went to sleep and I was one of the happiest men alive. Because one, I knew this is my wife. Now she's coming on board. She's come to see what the potential is. You would be there, you're selling the goats, you're selling the cows. Eid al-Adha comes, we are busy, running around. But it hadn't really clicked. She goes recently to visit somewhere. Immediately they give her a cow. And the next thing is, honey, salam alaikum, salam, I've got a cow. Will you be able to transport it to the farm? And inside me, I'm just beginning to laugh. There was that of wanting Musi in business. So while as a family, you might want to embark on business, there has to be that aspect that allows you to be in a line of business that you both agree upon. Just like we heard from Sauda initially, Sauda was saying she trusts her husband 100%. But the husband's view and vision is to go and do business in Uganda. Her dream is to do business here. She doesn't feel like she's ready to go. Already that becomes an obstacle now in terms of the business line. And that can become an obstacle. Abdul Karim, do you hear me on that?
Yeah, I hear you.
Right.
Controlling people's ego is very challenging to me because we can sit down, as I told you, we can sit down and agree on 90% on how the business is going to run. But because of external factors, especially in-laws and maybe close friends, they will say, I've seen this work out. And what I would say is let's agree to take risks. If you are to run a business, you should be ready to take risks. But the bigger thing is learn how to mitigate those risks.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to talk about is documentation. If we are to agree on the business, let's document. Let's start from the initial. For instance, you're talking about a farm. If we are agreeing on how to set a farm, let's document. We've bought 10 acres of land. You are bringing in 40%, I bring in 60%. Let it be documented. And the number of cows or whatever house or whatever. So in case of any friction in future, let's divert when we're all happy.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Abdul Karim. And we have UMC North London on. Abdul Karim, fantastic. I'm sure you are getting a few people, you are tickling a few people. And Amina Namkwaya had actually, sent in some very nice points that I would like us probably to be able to explore as we go deeper into the conversation. But we have UMC North London. Go ahead, please, UMC North London. First time, I think.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Idris Masagazo mkadde wange.
Oh, Idris, very welcome. Nice to have you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the show. It's really touching because you are bringing topics which brings to which tackles our lifestyles, especially in our everyday life. The topic really is really challenging. The topic is challenging in the way that it needs accommodating each other. In order to make business together, you need really to accommodate each other, whereby you accept someone fully. Otherwise, everyone is going to have like an interest, a different interest in a business. You bring someone, you brought someone simple, whatever the examples of Al-Hajj is having a big shop, and suddenly someone comes over, and then out of somewhere, the woman is a business partner now.
Yes.
And that has been a challenge. There is a brother now, actually. He set a school, and he brought this accountant, very attractive, working very hard worker. And she's single. After 2 years, now we have finished the nikah. So
so
you are
many
talking
examples, I think.
you are
Yes.
talking about the points now, yeah.
Yes.
But the point is, as we go along the challenges of making it, because in the beginning definitely is going to be a challenge, but at the end of the day, with Allah's rahmah, Allah's mercy, alhamdulillah, that's the best thing you can do as a family. But as a brother says about the polygamous lifestyle we are inheriting, it becomes a challenge to whom you are going to work with at one point. Because at one point, sometimes you may have this lady, she has been married somewhere, and then she becomes working hard. She has a business, and you have a business as well. So when you have that connection together, you need to have a decision how you are going to run this business. She's because she has a family, she has children from another man, and now she has children from you and you yourself. So it's going to be really tough for her. You, it could be a simple, but it's not going to be simple as we can see, because you have to see or to look for anything which can happen tomorrow. Whatever the man dies, is this business how it's going to be? Ogenda kulaba obuzibu bw'okusaasaanya emaali to dispute the emaali eno okugigabanya. So it's going to be a challenge as well. My brother of recent, they connected a business out of it wasn't intentional. For him, it was intentional because he was trying to support the wife. She wasn't working. After when the children they grew up a little bit, she said, okay, this is now the time to go and start work. And the husband tried to help to set up the business. And after the business started well, the wife started buying plots, buying cars, and she came jubilating to the husband. I've got my first brand new car now. I think things are going well. So the husband was trying to ask her, how did you make this decision to buy cars? And she said, okay, I have a business, so it's my right to buy a nice car, whatever I want. Okay, the husband said, okay, if that is the case, you do whatever you want. I've been working together with you, and I was working with you, so I'm going to do as I want as well, because you decide to work, to do everything as you wish. So the wife didn't really pick up at this time, at that particular time in time. And after a while, she realized that she's making a mistake by taking herself in a business by herself, because she doesn't have that backbone with her. The husband pulled out everything. And afterwards, she came back. He said, okay, I'm really sorry. Let's work together now. But at that point, the business was going down on a high speed, until the husband came out. They worked around the business. Alhamdulillah. So the business is booming now. It's going back to normal. So that is the point whereby it's hard maybe for a woman to decide or to make a decision to work with a husband. And for men, always for us, we are looking forward to find that particular woman who can work with us, such that even if you, Shekazira went to America and she can live Hajatinaima in the village in Uganda, the business is running smoothly. For you, you don't have any problem, and that's our goals. But for women, it's really hard sometimes.
Fantastic.
And
Thank you very much.
yeah, that's my take. Yeah, exactly.
Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. I'll just read through these points quickly, and Haji Kassim Narumo, so I'll come to you to get your insights onto this. Namkwaya Amina came again, I think, to talk about the demerits or the disadvantages. He says, disadvantages of doing business. If it fails, you fail together. No one is there to support you. Taking criticism from your spouse is not easy. That's a good one. I think we should also try to explore that. Taking criticism from your spouse is not easy. 3, increased financial pressure can destroy your family. Yeah. Unequal loads bring resentment. So if the responsibilities are not shared out well or clearly or equally or equitably, then you might end up, becoming resentful, either of the business or between yourselves, the pressure that comes. Disagreement in goals and expectations, that happens a lot. It might be that you set out to start business. And I think that's where now it comes to, if you decide what business, because I think probably that would have been a very good point for us to start this conversation. We are talking about doing business, going in partnership with your spouse. But what business? It has to be something, it has to be a business that you both share, interests about. It has to be something that you both want to do. Because if only one is interested and the other is just following, it becomes difficult then to sort of share out the responsibilities or even the motivation to move it. There might be someone that is much more enthusiastic about it, and that is understandable. But then it has to be that it is something that you have sat through and you've actually discussed and agreed upon. In any business, there will be someone that is much stronger in one thing or the other. Sometimes approaches differ. There are times when, for example, I am one person who likes to just go slow. So if I'm going to plant, for example, I'm thinking about, I want an orchard of, say, mangoes. The target is 30 acres or 20 acres. I'm one person who will say, let me start with 4 acres. Just see how it goes. If I'm happy with how it has gone, then I expand, I build it. My wife is different. She says, if you want 30, go for 30. So you are either in, it is like in the whole fisil mikafa. You are either in wholly or you are not. And these differences in approaches might be sort of an area that you can have a conversation and say, these are the risks involved. Because of the risks involved in these, I would rather sort of take these baby steps and build it. But there's someone who says, I'd rather, if I have it big, then I can attract more people. I can attract bigger business. If I start small, it will be difficult to do that. But these are conversations that you need to have between, the couple as you are making a decision on how to embark. In between, there might be these disagreements, as Amina Namkwaya says here, in goals and expectations. And when the expectations become slow, there are people who go into business. And the idea will be, someone expects Niagara business, Uganda, you know how nowadays, with all these TV channels, YouTube channels that have come in, people come in and start bringing something, they they come in and Nancy and they start showing you the moment you do the maths, when you think about within 4 months, you are making money that is more than what you're making here. Reality on the ground becomes different. So you really have to sort of draw a line in terms of expectations. And in business, you have to know and be ready that there will be losses. You might go in, something happens. Bad weather sets in, foot and mouth disease or Newcastle, whatever, an epidemic of sorts, bad flu comes in and kills off the birds as you went in. That is qadar. You have to be ready to fall down, lift yourself up, dust up, and move on. And be ready to have that patience, because it might just be that at the point when you break and lose it is the point when you are actually going to make a breakthrough. There are times there is somebody who went into Uganda. I think he was in America. he had planted about 20 acres of coffee in the expectation of sort of saying, now I'm going, this is the real deal. Guy goes and gets disappointment over 3 years non-stop. Prices of coffee were really minimal. He had put everything that he had into the coffee. Just as he was just about to give up, he was really preparing to load up and go back to America and start nearly afresh because he had sort of, closed chapters and said he had gone. Something happens in Brazil. Bad weather hits. Brazil loses coffee. Coffee prices ran mad. This guy went into the market. A kilo of Robusta that was going for 8,000, 9,000 went to 13,000 in a long time. That's something that had not happened. Money suddenly flew in ways that he hadn't believed. This was at the tip of the point where this person was already, it's not like plans had already been made, ticket has already been worked out, person is going to go back. Windfall gains coming, and this person is suddenly resuscitated, resurrected, on the third day, and he ends up, getting this. And that is very crucial. So in business, you have to have the patience while you decide to go in with your spouse. One of you has to be the calming factor, and the other one has to be the pushing factor. There has to be someone that is going to say, we can do it, and pushes. But there has to be someone who says, in case things haven't happened the way we wanted, this is one person who will come and say, Qaddar Allahu wa ma sha'a fa'ala, let us go back to the drawing board and be able to do it. And that's the essence. As you're going to go in, you must decide. You will know between yourselves. You don't even have to put it in writing that whenever we are in crisis, you would come in. You would know between the two of you who is much better placed to be able to address such. Then rise to stress and jealousy, like the way of wife talking to men, customers. Yeah, working together with husband, that can be tricky. Wife is talking nicely to customers and husband suddenly, it's a man thing. Number 7 from Namkwaya, Amina says, no personal space, yet sometimes we want to be alone. That is one I would have wished so much to explore, but Amina looks like she's at work and therefore could only type. I wish we could just explore. If anyone probably has a view on this, where you want personal space and because you're working with someone, you're just sort of crisscrossing each other every minute and therefore no time for time alone. Lack of excitement and boredom in each other due to spending time together. In fact, there was a story that was quite interesting of how husband and wife used to work together in Uganda. I think in Nakasero, probably they were dealing with electrics or whatever. Tight marking, wife is with the husband throughout. But this man would go out to go and pray Dhuhr in Nakasero Masjid. It's hardly like 7 minutes to just walk to the mosque and get back. And in between just that distance between going for Dhuhr and coming and going for Asr and coming back, this man fathered 2 children. And the wife almost fainted. She could never bring herself to understand or believe how this could have happened, because this is a man I sit with all the time. He only lives here with Udhu even to go to the mosque. But between that journey, 2 children had been fathered. Haji Kassim Narumo, so assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We welcome you to this conversation. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. Talking about doing business with spouses.
I had the intention of coming in earlier, but then my phone had no battery, so I charged it first, and then I went to lay down and have a rest. Then I woke up now late. I said, oh, I go, whatever the time is. The most important thing, the ayah eya Bakara eri 283.
Yes.
Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Wemba mukolagana mukoleki
endagaano
muwandiike. Abantu bayogedde trust ebyo byonna bibaawo, naye temutakola kwe kugenda mu nkolagana nga temukoze eki, nga temuwandiise. Nembanga mwami na mukyala kubanga oli ajja kitwala nti you are contributing your husband factor. It's not value. You are just there ng'oli mwami talaba contribution gy'okola mu additional value. Kale muteekwa okuba muwandiisi obanga ogenda nze I have experience in this era kyenva njogera ate olwokubanga experience yange yali live njogera from experience naye ate saagala gyogerako nnyo kubanga saagala ebeere case study kuba we are still man and wife naye nga I experienced it oli nabanga tavaluinga yo additional nankani otaddemu kirungo ki kubanga ne bwe wali tonnajja yali akola the same. Yes, yali wali okola naye naawe wava mu bizinesi yo wali weekozesa ng'okola ebibyo n'olabanga amenyeka nnyo n'ojja no addingako something to sort of alleviate kwegamba okubonaabona kw'okumenyeka kwe. But it's not valued in cash terms. You're just there as somebody who is there. Not uncan okuwulira n'abantu oba nno nga bwozze kati as it happened to me the kanjogere sijja kukyogerako ekyo abantu n'owulira nno nga basambu clips era kakati najja n'ayingira mu ky'omukazi lwaki ye tayiyizaayo kiki okitegeera kakati so nga tewayingira lwakuba nti obuliddwa wayingira kujja kuyamba ono olaba amenyeka nnyo yes naye nga olwokuba nti culture ye gye tukuliddemu bukomenti singa obwo n'obulya bwe businga okuvuuvuuma era kali lwaki takoze ekiki you end up not being compensated. You understand? But if you had written, it would have been different.
Absolutely understand it. Yes, sir. What do you point she talks about lack of excitement and boredom in each other due to spending too much time together, too much time around each other. Jaden, you have been quietly in the background there. I'd like to tap into your wisdom here. Haji Kassim Narumo, so first time on the program, but beautiful contribution. I'm sure we pick something out of that. Men not feeling appreciated when they've made a contribution, or especially society sort of reading into that and maybe misrepresenting what the reality might be in business. There is that idea of people not feeling appreciated or feeling like someone is carrying a much harder burden or higher burden as opposed to the other. Jaden, assalamu alaikum. It's been a while. I hope you're okay.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you? I know you've been doing business with Madam, with Narongo.
Yes, but I want to approach this from a completely different perspective because
perfectly fine.
Most of what I was thinking has already been said. And the one thing that has not been said is the business itself, because what people have been focusing on is the relationship. And yet my understanding of your topic is the business should be the central point here. Because how do you go into the joint business with your partner? It's not how do you manage your relationship with your partner while you're doing the business. So to me, those are two different things. So if we are going to do business with your partner, the focal point would be the type of business, the vision that you are going to that you have got. Where do you want to go with this business? And I'll use you as an example. You're quite passionate about the agriculture and farming and all that. So that's your focal point, and you put all your energies in there. Now, if you were to focus on bringing your wife or your partner into that business and working on a relationship, which is already working, by the way, because when you're thinking of bringing a third party into that relationship, and that third party is the business, then the relationship becomes crowded. And you lose the focus, and especially the partners, the wives, they're very quick to lose that focus and say, no, something is coming in between me and the husband, and this is the money bit, or this is the relationship with colleagues, workers at the business, or the time factor is also coming in. But if both of you are jointly focused on the actual business, how much money should I put or should we put into that business? How much time should each of us devote to that business? Not how much time are you going to spend with me in the house while the business is running. Those are two different things. And that's why we find that in the Western world, businesses continue for generations. Even after families have fallen apart, the business will continue to run because they have been set up in a partnership, not a family, but in a partnership, whereby if there's a problem with the relationship, that business partnership continues as a business, as a joint concern, without bringing in the element of the family coming in. And that also helps to reduce that. Somebody talked about bringing in in-laws, bringing in extended family. So if your focus is the business, irrespective of whether your wife's partner is jobless, irrespective of whether your mother-in-law is ill, that one has to be attended to separately from the business. So you need to attend to those family issues as though the business is not existing. So if you did have the business, how are you going to handle the issue of your brother-in-law being jobless? Or how are you going to treat the mother-in-law? So the business is a business. That's a separate entity. How you run your family affairs, that is completely different. And I think one of your clips there said it all, where they've been together for 11 or 13 years, and
yes,
the communication,
11 years, 13 years in business and 11 years in marriage.
So you have to differentiate between who is communicating. Is it your business partner, or is it your wife? And that's a very thin line, because emotions can easily creep in at a time when you're making very important business decisions. So if you're going to start,
Jaden, that is very nicely put in an ideal world. Put in an African setting where there are many factors at play. Abdul Karim was talking about in-laws, I think, and who come in here, who are part of, the bigger picture. You're trying to run a business, but there are these community factors that you cannot in any way ignore. How do you go about those without seeming like an alien within, community and societal norms?
I think it's very difficult, because many of us fall into that trip of being charities for the whole village. You're like charity commission, and a simple problem, you are there. So I don't have an answer to that, because that is part of how we are brought up. You cannot close your eyes to suffering in the village, and this is where the biggest problem is. That's where most businesses start to crumble, because the money starts creeping slowly to support the extended family, or the professionalism goes away because you have decided to bring an in-law who knows nothing about business to come and help you to run the business. So my suggestion would be to act as to invest the capital, and then use what become like non-executive partners within that business. You get somebody who is professional to run that business. You've got your plan. Say, this is where I want this business to go, and you detach yourself from the business, from making those important business decisions. You direct it.
You just wait for your dividends at the end of the year or the financial year. You just wait for your profit or your dividends.
something like that, but that's easier said than.
But there's also the passion now. How do I throw away my passion in that sense that I have to allow this business person to run it?
Now,
because the reasons for going into business, Jaden, will be more than just money making. There might be, yes, there's profit making, yes, but there's also the passion is such a pursuit of passion.
Now that's different when it comes to the kind of hands-on business that you are running, because you enjoy, for example, milking cows, and you can't take that away from yourself. But at the same time, you also enjoy spending money. Now, you can see the difference there. The spending of money is easier than milking cows, because you somehow see, I think it's the shaitani that's made the money so sweet and easy to spend. Once the money is in your pocket, it burns a hole there. But when it comes to milking the cows, that is a different level of engagement. So you can engage in your passion without expecting any rewards from it, because you enjoy that task. So even if they said, get up at 5 a.m. to go and milk the milk, because you enjoy it, you'd willingly go and do it and not expect anything back.
Thank you very much, Jaden. Musa Mawanda Sebo Nkuraba, you've been there quietly. I'm sure you would have something. And Chitunzi as well. Chitunzi, even in the name now, talking about business, I think there might be something in there. Musa Mawanda, please go ahead. Bwana Musa, Haji Musa Mawanda.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mashallah, badde mpuliriza bulungi abateesa abaliko. Ensonga y'okukolagana yali nnungi nnyo, by the way. It's very important. Omwami n'omusajja nabanga bakolagana mu business.
Omukyala mukola naye?
Omukyala tukola naye.
Okay.
Naye kati mbadde gamba nti problem wejjira sometimes fe abasajja ntogera reality mazima. When you go to multiple marriages, one again was some child. Then the one you started with, sometimes I'm cheating. It doesn't especially when it comes. But it's a social life, but it goes back to business life. Mulia contentment. So in those cases, a child would be better. Okwewala ebijja mu maaso eyo nakola business ye no nakola bibye ninga bwewa amagezi nga yero pichaza you advise each other not mu bubi by the not mu bubi but that's the reality. Njogera kati mazima genyini nga wegakola ki
no kufuna bulungi nedaze wembadde nsuubira nti buli muntu asobola okukola their own business is on the basis of interest. So yinza obanga ekintu kyoyagala okukola ate muno si kyayagala okukola kati nga unless ozze buzzi kumuyamba n'ogaa nti oinvestinzemu omuyambe omuteddemu capital agaziye, you are not there kubanga it's not your area of interest. Naye okuba nti oleseemu kiri ekyokwewala biri ate naawe nkulaba mu ngeri eyo. Naye Abdulkarim yabadde agambira n'agaa nti you would look at the bigger picture, ekigenda okuba nti singa ssente zino ziteereddwa wamu amaanyi gekyandikoze bw'oteeka miliyoni 10 z'osoose okusondera emyezi 3 miliyoni 10 bamusobola ozisonda mu mwezi gumu bwemuba nti muli ba partners. So in that way nekiba nti it would allow business ebadde erina okulinda emyezi 3 neekolerwa mu mwezi ogumu, and that would bring in benefits. There is that something.
That was it would have been the best that way. Naye nze nkitunulira ku the other perspective. Otherwise kimwatandika obulungi as a business, it may end up nga marriage kikoze eki kigisse okitegeekisa mutu bigaba nebuli watu wale ebibye kivaamu nga so that is my idea.
Abakyala baga nti abaami tebeesigika ye statement yatandise nga tonnaba kujoininga conversation.
Nawulidde bulungi nnyo
ogyogerako kiki
either side tulabyeko n'abakyala bateesigika nabo nga omukyala nenze ayina bya business ya mwami yagimuteerawo naye nga the other side azimba mayumba ewaabwe akola byakola naye nga abijja mu business ya musajja. We have seen them very many. naye omusajja tamanyi ye naye nga kumbe ono ye akwatagana ne barelatives be ajjamu asomba omusajja yalowooza bizinesi yaabwe so either side zonna kisinza Allah bakuwadde omutima gwa buntu bulamu otherwise tekiri nti basajja it can either be abakyala nabo nga bwe batyo.
Fantastic. Very good contribution. First time on the program, but not first time on the show, but first time contributing, I think. But in the chat room, Hajat Sarah is saying, Shekeke, some people do business for the sake of making money without any passion for what they are doing. Namkwaya comes back, how to manage business with the partner, choose right business structure. I wish Namkwaya we could have gotten you on. It's a bit sad that we're just having to read these out. I think some of these things could easily have been, well, explored much more, not necessarily challenged, but explored a little bit more. Choose the right business structure, define your roles of responsibility, create a shared schedule, work as a team, discuss your exit strategy, use respectful language in ups and downs, identify root cause to try to solve them together. Thus, there is potential for increased income. Your family unit having, a trusting and solid foundation, working with your partner. You see each other daily. Plan vacation together since you have the same job, so you can afford to be away. Develop a good understanding level, because then you know who is stronger in what area and therefore be able to push and enhance each other. Chitunzi Sebo, I come to you. Chitunzi, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Wana Chitunzi. Hello, Chitunzi, at 2 minutes to 10 o'clock. Chitunzi achari mede mukamoli, ngende wa Bwana Ismail. Hello, Ismail. Bwana Semaili. Hello, Ismail. Okay, I'll go to Janat Jingo. Oh, Janat, good to have you here tonight. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Janat.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Nyabu je waliko.
Kale sebo nawe je balikeyo.
Omwami akoleka naye.
Omwami akoleka naye, but it depends.
Yes.
Kubanga, for one, let me first comment on what I was thinking. Ebisinga byonna bye njogedde, for sure people have mentioned it.
Right.
But we didn't really talk about the generation. These younger people, I have 2 grown-up children, bali mu 20s. Boba gamba kola bibyo nange nkole byange. So it seems for young people that is where it's going.
Right.
Ne kufa abakuzeeko ku myaka, as long as you have a very good relationship with your spouse, I don't see why you can't be doing business together. Naye ng'omwami bwe yagedde wateekeddwa okubeerawo nti waliwo trust bonna bakyogedde. Then preferably that contract has to be there bwebanga ownership weeri kiba kyetaagisa. Then n'omukyala nga mwembi mwina equal say. Because what happens naddala e Uganda, it's a man's world. First of all, society makes this assumption nti business ya musajja. So bwe mubeera Uganda, it's a different ball game, I think. Naye kati katugambe ffe abali mu diaspora. Nze, in my own personal situation, I'm working for my husband's business. Simply because he was way ahead of me. Najja wano nakola business, he's a professional business. Naye business mu kusooka nalinga nkolanga spouse nga tebiri formal. So, but I got to a point where, you know what, I'm bringing some professional, because I'm a business professional actually.
Yes.
Then netandika okubeera ku payroll. Naye business ye 100%, at least according to paper. Naye nga tulina kugamba what I bring on the table kiri significant, and in this case singa mbeera awo ntate business ya musajja, maybe mba njagala acknowledging my contribution gye mba nkoze eki gye mba ndese so olw'okuba tukolanye ndooza it has worked in that way. Nsasula omusaala naye nga business ya mwami, although wano ku surface iringa eyaffe ababiri, naye olwa trust eyo gye tuyina ekiyinza okulemesa business okukola n'omwami, because era nga blended families ezo, families eziri polygamous. Bwe mbanga nandibadde mu situation eyo, maybe nandibadde ate sigenda kwemanga. In fact, ne bw'otabeera mu situation eyo, nze I would advise people naddala abatandika obufumbo, or anybody over nafabakadent, you have to have a side hustle. You can never send a business jenny now young na mwami, however good the business can be. Kuanga ultimately you cannot be trusted 100%. Never wanga mumaze 30, 40 years mbufumbo. Kakati nganze, I have to have my side hustle. Nyako kakolanga security okwewala bino nabiri. Ne, supposing we are two different businesses. The man has his business, no muchala. I think you have to be open. Buli omu n'amanya ekya munne. Because especially nga musharing abaana. Kubanga what if someone dies? Okiraba? Omuntu wafa, one of us. I would want my husband to know everything. Chenina, akayumba kanga kimizigo jange je nagula wali, all of that mbanjagala. Of course, wabera n'abaana bakulu chiyamba ne abaana baffe tuzalidde wano tebabitegeera. So in conclusion, omuntu mubeera ne business mukolagane as long as mulina trust for each other. Bwe mubeera mu blended family, ebintu bibeere mu writing. Absolutely.
Now, Janet, there is something that you raised that I would like to pick up on that is worrying me. Where we are at, but you raised something. You started with the younger generation, a younger generation that is suddenly so selfish. Would we say it is selfish or it is poor upbringing? Because a lot of these things are things that sometimes we have grown up seeing, and then people develop this idea of wanting to push their own thing. Or is it a Western thing that we are watching so much Netflix, so much television, that we are seeing people sort of competing or almost seeming like competing within families for someone to do one thing and someone to do another? Why is there not a synergy? They think in the same way. I'll give you an example. You can say whatever you want about Western Uganda, for example, but there is something very unique about these people. Abantu bano bagenda bajja omuntu n'agenda n'asoma n'afuna degrees z'afunye. It doesn't matter. This person comes back to cows. In fact, our generation is the first generation where parents had to sell cows. Museveni brings this whole concept of sell your cows, send your children to school. People would die of hunger. You've seen that kind of lifestyle. Not only for them, that is the kind of happiness. A revolution comes now in which people started selling. We used to go, you sell the cow, you get your school fees, you go to school. What these children did is they went to universities, they graduated. Of course, given the fact that when it comes to government jobs, blah, blah, they will have that, added benefit of being able to access the jobs. They get into these jobs. But the first thing that this person does as they start working is almost replenish the cows they spent while they were going to school, and even bettering that. There is generational wealth that can be created, that whether this father dies, the child is already beginning within the line of the business. For Abasemu diaspora, we are so unlucky that we are coming in now, you get children, you've not managed to create a sort of a feeling of togetherness or a vision. Chasing money now has made it, like brought our children to sort of think probably they should have a different approach as to how they would avoid going down the line of working too hard like their parents have worked. My question to you then is, why do you think our children have ended up in the place that they have ended up? Wanting to do their own things instead of looking at a sort of a joint thing, especially when even they become couples, because it starts within the families where people come from. By the time you come to find a mate, get married, you've already come with this perception of pushing your own agenda instead of looking at joint partnership. Where have we failed on that?
We have not failed. It's just their culture. Abana abafe bazungu ne wakoda baddugavu in color, but their thinking and everything is so westernized. And in the West, I think that is the predominant thinking. Until you have to have your thing, and then we have to have this common pool of funds. As you call it, everything related, mortgage. So I think it's really that that's their culture, which unfortunately, or fortunately, is different from ours. Fetwakula tumanyi, either tata ya kola, and then they take care of the family. Over mwembi mukola. when being, both parents work, whatever they want to do. Ebyente sibimanyi bulungi naye nga
no, nowadays they say chanty just because of the generational wealth that you find
right.
that one
Yes.
sort of a systematic ina masters or whatever, being a minister, but still over the weekend and you find like that building up. Kampala apartment, but still the base is there. And you find that this
oyogera ku mwami Kayira kati gwe kennyini.
Then abana bange, I'm worried because what I'm seeing is exactly what you've said. They are pushing their own sort of dreams, and it's not the dream that I'm looking at.
And don't force your dream on them. Tebijja kola.
Someone was unmuted there. Yes,
Keke ekyo kyoyogerako ekyente, what the Banyankoles are doing nowadays.
Yes.
They are all going to school. They can do their master's, PhD. Now they pick one member in the family. Ne bamuzimbira ennyumba e Kampala, ne bamugulira truck, n'agenda n'abeera farm manager. So the purpose is to have a generation control to take over.
Yes.
And that's what they are doing now.
But if we have lost out on that, kubanga tudukidde Kampala ne tuddayo n'amataka ne tugatunda ne tujja ne tugula boda ne zitukuba ebigo. These are realities I think that we need to address whether we like it or not. It's a bitter truth that I think we must be able to address at a certain at a certain point. And Debs in the chat room is saying, interestingly, my children are so African, Ugandan, Itesots. Well, that's good to hear. Abdul Karim, thank you very much. Janet Jingo, fantastic contributions there. Let me get to Hajat Aisha. Hajat Aisha, they don't jagara kufuna, everybody sort of hearing it, because this is the conversation that cuts across. Not about you contributing on this, especially the way forward. Because if there are trust issues or blah, blah, there are those who have managed to do it very successfully, and I think we've heard the stories. Janat Jingo being one of them, of course, in terms of okwatira wamu n'omwami, and then the business is running. Naye ne watabulayo kali ke bayita kagunna akalimu ka side hustle ak'okwetegekera. Hajati Aisha, nzize gy'oli, please, if you can unmute yourself. Hajati Aisha, second call. Hajati Aisha, third call. Okay, tugendewa Mastura. Mastura, where are the men? I'm worried now. What could we go? A few people have come in to stand in the line. Hajat Mastura, are you there? Hello, Mastura. Safina. Hello, Safina. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah.
Allahumma ameen. Yes, doing business with a partner, would you or would you not?
I look at it in an angle of putting all your eggs in one basket. And if you all choose to do one business together, and maybe the business fails, then zero. Yet, if you have other businesses, and then maybe there's one other business in which you partner, and then partnering in that business doesn't mean we are actually working together. Omwami ayinza okuba nga contributing maybe capital, obanga omukyala contributing a capital, and then we have professionals who are running the business. That will be okay. Yes. Than we are both working together. Then that said, personal experiences people have seen. Waliwo omwami ayina businesses wali, and then along the way nafuna omukyala. In fact, nga butugamba nti abasajja ffe abasiraamu edda balinga tebasomye kimala. And then omukyala najja ye nga asomye, ayina business acumen and whatever, kati naleeta ekiteeso bakole a given business. Kati omusajja n'ava mu businesses ziri zonna ze yalimu, essente ne baziteeka in this one business. Ala n'abasaasira business n'ekola. This is omwami ayina already abaana from previous marriages. Kati along the way, because they are prominent in Kampala, because of centers that way, Then along the way, mwami was enough no mukyalo mulala. Kati kireeta a problem. katono omukyala nga waliwo omwami yakyogeddeko nti sometimes omukyala bw'akola n'omwami omwami n'awasa omukyala awulira nga aba cheated, you know, tukoze ffenna tubonyeebonye and then this is kyosasuddemu stuff like that. Kati batuuka nga omukyala agamba njagala twawukane, then all this other money is because of me, so I want this, I want this, I want the other. So okugabanyamu ebintu became such a big problem. Ngo waliwo yakyogeddeko nti bante mwawandiika mu buwandiike what your percentages are biki, it becomes such a big problem. So at the end of the day, ndowooza okwawaganya business kyabalemaganya and they stay together somehow. So ebyomunda byabwe no one knows actually oba it is a perfect marriage oba it's just a mirror. Naye nga omwami bwe yawasa omukyala n'agezaako kugamba nti kantwale kino kantwale kino lino nakusanga tobiyina obifunye oli nange. So a problem like that can happen. Naye nga okola awamu will be good. Naye not actually you know, like every day we are working together, but we can partner in a given business. That will be good. Naye okola these other problems that come along. That's what I think. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. I'll take it that are loud and clear. This is one that is, you don't know which way to take it. Oh my God. Well, we are almost wrapping up. Thank you very much for a very beautiful conversation. Just in case you appeared after I did go over Mastura. Just like Kubami, I think there was Esi whom we have not heard from. Has AC disappeared? Ne Ismail actually disappeared. Let me try Ismail again once more. Ismail Sebowoli, are you there? Ismail, one more. Yeah, ne walone Ismail nyini mo 75 Dabi Radio. Isma, I'm sure you can hear me 75 Dabi Radio. You do business with Madam. How have you found that? You sound so tiye. Isma manyo mpulira sebo mubiu me jori. Hello, what Isma? Okay. I think, well, we are almost getting to the concluding remarks regarding this particular topic, and it looks like a few issues have come up. Issues regarding the approach that we are to get into Kwara. Most people seem to say it might be a good idea, but there might be issues, many more trust issues that come in. People not feeling appreciated in terms of their contribution. The fact that business might go down and then you go down, you know, the whole of you. Because it may be, Safina's suggestion was you can have a business where you both have interests, but then you do not necessarily have to be both in. You can be doing your other stuff, and then you have this business that you're jointly in together. That is assuming you have a lot to put across. But it might be that the kind of money, the kind of resources that you have are limited to a decision as to whether you're going to do a business together or each one doing separately. And the cost, of course, of doing that, as according to Abdul Karim, would be way too much. It would take really a toll on the individual. Definitely, what we've been doing, Munga, circumstances matter. There are particular situations that might lead people to want to do a business, but I think the starting point is having a common interest. Common interest is, are you there for the money? Do you have a common passion? Sometimes you actually fall in love with people because you share particular interests. So if you come from a background where you are sharing those particular interests, it might actually form the basis of the business because you have something in common. Other things sort of come along the way. There might be excitement. There might be that you've not done enough research to sit down and sort of explore what is within the particular business. But ultimately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can do as much as you want. You can wish as you want. But if there is no barakah from Allah, it might be difficult. There are people who have managed to work so well together as couples. And just like some, it would be almost impossible to work together as a couple. I thank you very much for a very beautiful night where we've had deep conversations looking at all the different aspects regarding doing business as partners. 10:15. I wish you a very good night and hope to see you next Tuesday, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Deb says my take home from this conversation is put everything in writing involve a lawyer if you can. Actually, I had forgotten that. Absolutely on the money. Verse 283, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 283, is the longest verse apparently in the Quran. And it just talks about the essence of putting into writing everything in case you have an agreement. And it's a business dealing. Actually, that's the thing. That's why even if it's even marriage, it is a social contract. And because it's a contract, there are particular things that have to be followed. But if it's a business dealing, if you are going to transfer something, if you're going to bequeath something, a title, you're keeping some, you are lending money to someone, and then they are giving you something in return to hold on to while you wait for the money to come. This was really, really something very, very interesting. Mawia, I think I was hoping that was Rehma, but it looks like it is from Diego, all the way in the United States, from Djibouti. Thank you very much. This has been very, very nice having you tonight. Inshallah, hope to see you next week, bi'idhnillah, same time, 8 p.m. Let's catch up. The program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, live on 75W Radio, live on Ummah Connected, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. And if you've missed anything, you can, of course, catch up online. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.